Okay. Well, if we are all ready, I'd like to call the meeting to order. And Michelle, if you could do a roll call to see who is present.
Sure. Ms. Counts?
Here.
Ms. Grijalva?
Here.
Dr. DeRocha?
Here.
Ms. Luna Rose?
Here.
Ms. Shaw?
Here. All right. So we have all board members present. Next is the oath of office. So Dr. Trujillo, if you would like to take it from here for the oath of office, you may.
Yes, I believe we have the Pledge of Allegiance first.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes.
Okay.
Pledge of Allegiance. And I heard that we had Miss Taryn's TUSD.
Yes, I believe we have the daughter of our executive assistant that serves in the superintendent's office, does a wonderful job working with parents and staff, and her daughter, who is, I believe, now a sophomore at Tucson High, is going to lead us in the pledge.
Is she here with us yet?
I'm not seeing.
Yes. Ileana Lopez is here. Would you like to
Ileana
say
Lopez.
hello? Ileana?
Hello, Ileana. Hi.
Hi.
Are you ready to lead us in the pledge?
Yes.
I just introduced you as our sophomore at Tucson High and the daughter of Mrs. Taryn, of course, who works for us in the superintendent's office. Can you share with us a little bit about what you love about Tucson High and some of the activities that you're involved in before you lead us in the pledge?
I like the community and all the students that go there and how the teachers are supportive of us.
Wow, and how's the remote learning going for you?
It's going really good.
Well, that's great. That's great. Well, with that, I'll turn it over to you to lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Thank you very, very much. Thank you so much.
All right. Now we are on to oath of office.
Yes, the oath of office. So first of all, I want to take this opportunity to congratulate and officially welcome all of our new governing board members who will meet one by one, as tonight we have a special video presentation of the swearing in of our three new governing board members. It should be noted that their official swearing in actually took place before the holiday break, simply because the break had an overlap between the service of the outgoing governing board members, which expired on December 31st, and the actual opening of the district, which commenced on January 4th. So because we needed those 3 days of coverage, we did swear in our governing board members officially. So tonight is the ceremonial traditional public swearing in that will be part of the governing board meeting this evening. We had every intention, of course, of being able to swear our governing board members in publicly at Duffy, but out of an abundance of caution and in recognition of the numerous TUSD family members that find themselves hospitalized this evening fighting COVID-19, out of respect for their struggle and the observance of what COVID-19 is doing in our district right now, we are facilitating tonight's ceremonious swearing in virtually. So we have some really nice video presentations tonight of the swearing in of our three new governing board members. The first, Natalie Luna Rose. She was sworn in by her second grade teacher from when she attended Bonias Elementary, and we were honored to see that we were able to get a hold of Mrs. Judy Teasley, her second grade teacher, to facilitate the swearing in of Mrs. Luna Rose. Jean?
I, Natalie Luna Rose, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution and laws of the state of Arizona,
I, Natalie Luna Rose, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution and laws of the state of Arizona,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same and defend them against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same and defend them against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
and that I will faithfully and impartially discharge the duties of the office of the governing board for Tucson Unified School District Number 1,
and that I will faithfully and impartially discharge the duties of the office of the governing board for Tucson Unified School District Number 1
according to the best of my abilities, so help me God.
according to the best of my ability, so help me God.
Thank you and welcome to TUSD's governing board.
Congratulations, Mrs. Luna Rose. Any words?
Thank you, Dr. Trujillo. I am first honored that Mrs. Teasley agreed to swear me in. She was one of my most treasured teachers during my time at TUSD. I went to Rincon with her son, Sloan, who I'm sure probably is not happy that I'm mentioning his name. But she was a big influence on me. I really had a tough time in elementary school, and she guided me through even when I was not her student anymore. And even now, last night, I kept calling her Mrs. Teasley, and she wanted me to call her Judy, and I cannot. She'll always be Mrs. Teasley to me. So, but I'm excited to be here, and I'm looking forward to working with my colleagues who are all parents, and we all have a vested interest in our district, and I'm looking forward to the next 4 years of hard work, but really meaningful work to make us a really great district.
Wonderful. Well, congratulations and welcome again to the Tucson Unified School District Governing Board.
Thank you.
Our next governing board member was sworn in by former Tucson Unified School District Governing Board member and longtime community advocate, Gloria Copeland, who administered the oath of office to Ms. Sadie Shaw.
I, Sadie Shaw, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution and laws of the state of Arizona,
and the Constitution and laws of the state of Arizona,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same
and I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the same and defend them against all enemies,
and defend them against all enemies,
foreign and domestic, that I will faithfully and impartially discharge the duties of the office of the governing board of Tucson Unified School District Number 1
Tucson Unified School District Number 1,
according to the best of my knowledge, to the best of my abilities.
according to the best of my abilities.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations and welcome, Ms. Shaw. Any words that you'd like to share?
Yes, just incredibly humbled and honored for this opportunity. I want to thank Ms. Gloria Copeland for guiding me along the way, and of course my committee and all of the voters who helped get me here. And I hope that I can make an impact, positive impact in TUSD.
Wonderful. Congratulations and welcome again. And lastly, our third governing board member, Dr. Ravi Gravoy Shah. He was sworn in by Dr. Carlos Gonzalez, MD. And following the oath, we have a very, very special blessing, a very special Yaqui blessing for the well-being, peace, and safety of the district from the 7 sacred directions to be facilitated by Dr. Gonzalez. This is a blessing that we're proud to host, and yet more evidence of the historically and culturally significant contributions and presence of the Pascua Yaqui community in the long history of the Tucson Unified School District.
I, Ravi Gravoy-Shah,
I, Ravi Gravoy Shah,
do solemnly affirm
do solemnly affirm
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution and laws of the state of Arizona,
and the Constitution and laws of the state of Arizona,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same,
and defend them against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
and defend them against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
and that I will faithfully and impartially discharge
and that I will faithfully and impartially discharge
the duties of the office of the governing board for Tucson Unified School District Number 1,
the duties of the office of the governing board of Tucson Unified School District Number 1,
according to the best of my abilities.
according to the best of my abilities.
So I do affirm.
So I do affirm.
Thank you and welcome.
Thank you.
Robbie, I'm going to perform a blessing for you. So as you progress in this new path of yours, you go in a good way, so that you go in a healthy way, so that you go in a mentally astute way, helping the students, helping the staff, helping the faculty of TUSD. Okay? We will honor the 7 sacred directions. Each direction has a certain energy, and I want to give that energy to you so you can use it for the future. Okay? As you know, this bowl of abalone has sage, cedar, copal, creosote, and sweetgrass, sacred herbs used to bless an individual. Okay? So, let's start by looking at the east. We ask the energy of the east to come into Ravi. The energy of the east provides guidance and vision. Guidance so that he can guide and make decisions that will help complete the vision of TUSD and its student body, so that he can do well in guiding it for the future. Now let's go to the south. To the south, we have the energy of the family. We ask that energy to come in and bless Ravi, to use that energy in honor of the family, and to remember not only his own family, but the families of the staff, the families of faculty, the families of the student, and to use that in a humble way so that it can guide his future decisions. We ask the energy of the West to come and bless Ravi, Dr. Gravoy Shah, so that we can use the energy of the ancestors, for without them we would not be here. So that you can use the wisdom of the ancestors to make decisions. You can look back and see what was done right and what was done wrong, and make appropriate decisions for the benefit of all members of TUSD. And also to look within himself to see how he can be a better person, a better leader, and a better member of the governing board of this school district. We ask the energy of the North to come here and provide Ravi with strength to meet his challenges. His challenges be the physical, emotional, spiritual, intellectual. Give him the energy to overcome all challenges and barriers that he may face. We ask the energy of Father Sky to come and bless Ravi, giving him good masculine energy, the energy to respect others, to be responsible for his actions, and to protect those that need protecting. We ask the energy of Mother Earth to bless Ravi. We ask this energy of the feminine so that he can nurture those that need nurturing, the students, the faculty, the staff, fellow board members, the public, and he can care for them and make decisions that are appropriate and help them to get a proper education through his actions on the governing board of TUSD. The masculine and the feminine are two parts of one. We ask that the both unite within him so he can walk in harmony, in beauty, in wholeness, and in completeness. Lastly, we ask the energy of the Creator to come and bless Ravi, Dr. Roy Shaw, so that he can make good decisions and make those decisions in an appropriate manner for the benefit of all members of TUSD. We ask this, oh Creator, Itom Ta'achi, please come and bless Dr. Roy Shaw, Ravi as we know him. Please bless him and give him good energy. If you'll stand right there. Hold your hands out like this. Okay. I have blessed your mind, so you use it well. I have blessed your masculine side, so you remember to be strong, be responsible, be respectful at all times. I have blessed your female side, so that you can be nurturing and caring, and remember to help all those that need help. And I bless your soul, your heart, so that you always walk in a good way and do so in a way that will help everybody. So I've blessed you with the 7 sacred directions and individually, and I wish you the best.
Thank you.
All
Thank
right.
you, Dr. Gonzalez. Carlos, you and Debbie are the reason why I'm in Tucson. Your friendship, your mentorship, a colleague, as a family physician for the last decade. It's been amazing, and I thank you so much for what you've done to bring me here to Tucson, you and Debbie, and for all your mentorship over the years. And I couldn't imagine beginning my term on the TUSD governing board any other way than being part of this with you. So thank you for being here and doing this today.
You're welcome.
Great.
Congratulations and welcome. Dr. Gervois-Shaw, any words you'd like to share?
Sure, no, thank you. Of course, intention and reality is tough with COVID, and our intention was to have him do that ceremony tonight in person with all the three of us joining the board. And I'm sorry that wasn't able to happen, but I'm glad he was able to do the blessing and hopefully bring some positive energy to the work that we're doing together. And I think, what I do want to say is I'm so excited to be serving with these four amazing women. As Natalie said, we're all parents. For the first time, I think, in knowledge for most people. We have 5 parents serving on the governing board, and the diversity that we bring from different backgrounds and experiences is so bar none going to make a huge impact for the work that we're going to do and the voices that we'll bring. So I'm so thankful to the voters of Tucson, to my family, and to everyone who made this possible. And I'm excited to do the work and roll up my sleeves and do what we can to make sure that everyone's experience here with TUSD is as positive and successful as possible. So thank you for this opportunity, and I'm excited to serve.
Congratulations and welcome again. Board Secretary Counts, I have no recommendations for agenda adjustments. So that moves us directly into the election of officers.
Okay. So we're on our first action item of the evening, 2.1, election of officers, Office of the President for the 2021 calendar year.
Ms. Counts?
Yes. Ms. Greenwald.
I would like to move that we combine action item 2.1 and 2.2 into one vote. And I would like to move you, Ms. Counts, to be president of the TUSD Governing Board and Ms. Sadie Shaw to be clerk of the TUSD Governing Board, if you'll both accept the nomination.
Thank you. Yes. Do we have a second?
I second.
And Ms. Shaw accepts the nomination.
Yes,
Great, thank you.
Okay, so we have Ms. Grijalva making the motion and Ms. Luna Rose, that second. Do we need to do a roll call vote for this, Michelle? Or we could just...
Yes, I can. You can, just for transparency and for the audio and the video.
Yeah.
We'll go ahead and do that, and then I'm getting ready to go ahead and let you take the vote online. So we'll start with Ms. Counts,
Yes.
Ms. Grijalva,
Yes.
Dr. Gervois-Shaw,
Yes.
Ms. Luna Rose,
Yes.
Ms. Shaw.
yes.
Great, thank you. Motion passes unanimously. And thank you to Board Member Grijalva for your nomination, and to the fellow board members for putting myself and Ms. Shaw in this position. And we hope, I can speak for myself, I hope to serve well and do so with the dedication that is the legacy of the board president. Thank you. All right, next we have call to the audience. And that will be Ms. Shaw. And I think that Yolanda Pena is going to be emailing Ms. Shaw the list for the call to the audience.
Yes, I just emailed both the script and the list.
Okay, let me pull that up. One moment. I don't see it yet in my email. Did you send it to the TUSD email?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Sorry, I don't see it in my inbox yet.
Okay, I'm going to send it again.
Okay.
May I make a suggestion? Well, I guess I'm the president now, so I'd like to make a suggestion that Yolanda just read the script.
Oh, I see it.
Oh, you got it? Okay.
Sorry about the wait.
That's all right.
Okay. During the audience call, the board clerk will recognize speakers and maintain order by setting appropriate limitations. The governing board is committed to the safety of the entire TUSD community in order to observe the recommended safeguards for reducing the rate and spread of COVID-19. The following procedures related to the call to the audience portion of board meetings will be observed. All public comments for the meeting were accepted in written form. Public comments will be read into the record by the program coordinator of staff services to the governing board. Our staff will make sure each board member receives a copy. At the conclusion of the call to the audience, the governing board president will ask if individual board members wish to respond to criticism made by those who have addressed the board, wish to ask staff to review a matter, or wish to ask that a matter be put on a future agenda. By law, at most, 2 board members can address any single issue raised during the call to the audience. Contents of this card are public information. Okay. Is that it?
We should have another attachment with the list of speakers.
Here we are. Thanks for your help. The first speaker is Leary.
As we start the new school semester in 2021, I want to share our family experience with 3 kids in the Tucson Unified School District. As you know, these kids have not stepped foot in a classroom since March 2020. We had one child transition from her K-8 school to high school, UHS, all awkwardly online. We had another child transition from his elementary school to middle, all online, all without proper closure. There's a real traumatic impact when a child, adolescent does not have closure. This is evidence-based statement. Meanwhile, TUSD has and continues to keep their doors closed while so many students suffer academically, emotionally, socially, and physically. And by that, I mean physical health and fitness. The number of Fs here in our community and throughout this country will need a national disaster response. As a point of reference, we are upper middle class SES. The kids are privileged. We have good Wi-Fi, their own private bedrooms, desk, and new laptops to do their work. There is absolutely no excuse why our kids should be struggling to this degree. In addition, our kids are all above average students. Yet, we have lost 2 of the 3 kids to powerful lack of motivation. There is zero motivation and drive from them to do their online schoolwork at home, minus a commitment to appear in their daily Zooms. As involved parents, we monitor grades, try to help with the work, try to provide motivation and encouragement, to no avail. We have taken away video games, adjusted bedtimes, yelled and pleaded, and we ended this semester with Fs and Ds, which we had never seen on report cards before. We are exhausted, saddened, and feel like we are failing as parents as we watch our kids' brains and bodies turn to mush. Worse, we also feel extremely powerless in regards to what happens next at TUSD. On a side but important note, I am wrapping my master's in school counseling, and I'm in the internship portion of my education. I worked at Mountain View High School in the Marana School District this past semester and was part of a recovery team that focused on all hybrid students who were failing 4 or more classes. Once the hybrid kids went back to school physically in mid-October, the recovery program started. I specifically worked with identified 9th and 10th grade students enrolled in a lunchtime recovery summit broken out by cohort, so the students' numbers were manageable. We worked on their motivation, study skills, self-talk, and their missing assignments. We had them monitor their own grades and progress every day. As a result, we helped 64% of these students pull their grades up to passing. Again, we were only able to do this for the kids we were able to see in person. I implore you to open your doors soon, or at least give TUSD parents a choice to get their kids back in the classroom. Figure out what has worked in the larger Tucson metro area like Marana, Amphitheater, Vail Public School Districts that successfully went to hybrid model. Figure out how private and charter schools who are dealing with the same
Ms.
pandemic.
Peña, your 3 minutes are up.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Next up is Beth Putnam Hidalgo.
I am Beth Putnam Hidalgo, speaking on behalf of CARE, the Coalition of Accountability, Respect, and Excellence for TUSD Students. CARE would like to congratulate the new board members and encourage all board members to take responsibility for administering the budget in a responsible way. Questionable expenses like large allowances for in-person travel during a pandemic, administrative salaries, bonuses, and miscellaneous unexplained stipends that are awarded outside of administration contracts are suspect in this time of crisis for the school district. The board must demand full transparency about each of these transactions and reject them now before any budgetary cuts are passed along to teachers, staff, or students. Beth Putnam Hidalgo.
And next is Jen Matsuyama.
I will be working in person at one of 5 new preschool hubs opening this week. I have worried about this return all through the break. As I write this, a friend's father is in the ICU with COVID, likely contracted from caring of his grandchildren so their mother could work. My neighbor, who is an essential worker doing medical transport for people with disabilities, just tested positive last night. And also his neighbor, who is an essential grocery store worker, has tested positive last week. The virus is getting closer and closer. The newspaper just published this. We're coming back from the holidays and cases are through the roof, Hoffman said. Right now, it seems reckless for any schools to be offering in-person instruction. While I understand TUSD must uphold FAPE, free and appropriate education, it doesn't change the truth in the superintendent's statement. Furthermore, Arizona was just ranked first in the world for COVID cases per capita last night. Deciding to open these new programs during this virus peak seems irresponsible to me, especially when CDC guidelines of social distancing and mask wearing will not be consistently followed indoors with preschool students. But I understand we are going back regardless of Pima County metrics and CDC guidelines. If exceptional education is held to different standards, then the district also needs to be held to different standards to figure out how to have us return safely during this time of very high spread. 1, when dealing with COVID, it is recommended that you wear an N95 or higher level respirator, eye protection, gloves, and disposable gowns or one-piece coveralls. I have not received any PPE from the district. Since this started 9 months ago, has the district thought about ways to let the windows be open for better ventilation? If not, why aren't they providing an air filtration system? Portable high-efficiency particulate air, HEPA, fan filtration system to help enhance air cleaning, especially in rooms where social distancing and masking may not be followed by IEP students. Being indoors with social distancing and inconsistent masking is the worst possible thing to do right now. 3, what is the timetable on vaccinations for educators? Will TUSD be offering these to employees, or are educators expected to get them at their primary care? Will on-site workers be prioritized? 4, does TUSD offer free weekly testing for on-site employees? Jean Matsuyama.
Next up is Sarah Smith.
Good evening, Dr. Trujillo and governing board members. I am writing to inquire whether the district has registered TUSD employees with the county for distribution of the vaccine when it's available for Group 1B. While we may be weeks away from being able to get the vaccine, it would put a lot of employees' minds at ease to know the district has registered us. Thank you, Sarah Smith.
And Kate Donovan.
Dear school board members and Dr. Trujillo, thank you for your service and for listening to the stakeholders' concerns during the very dangerous pandemic. I am the parent of a student at Tucson High School and have also been a teacher at THS for 20 years. I hope that you will choose to vote against going into any kind of hybrid or return to campus while Arizona is again the hotspot of the world for new COVID cases. Please take into account that opening a high school campus with over 3,000 students and over 200 employees would cause an even larger spike in COVID cases than our community is already experiencing. Please hold our safety at the most important factor in any decision you make. We are all fatigued of this pandemic, but the only way we can combat it is, as a community, is to stay completely remote until the numbers drop dramatically and we are able to vaccinate all of our employees. Since we fall under 1B, that is around the corner. Please wait to open campus back up until we are vaccinated. When it is safe to begin reopening our campuses, I plead with you to please scrap the hybrid schedule that has been approved and work on a hybrid that better serves both the needs of families and that is feasible for teachers to make work. The current hybrid does not do either of those things. Please allow teachers to teach in person and online at the same time rather than forcing us to teach all of our classes twice in one day as well as be janitors. This is simply not a sustainable workload for teachers and will force many teachers to leave the profession in the middle of a teacher shortage and global pandemic. 4 half-days for students also does not serve families' needs. Please wait until our COVID numbers drop and staff is vaccinated. Perhaps by fourth quarter, if the numbers drop and vaccinations are complete, we could even go back to our normal schedules. Please hold the line and keep us remote until it is safe. Sincerely, Kate Donovan.
Last is Ariel Herrera.
Dear TUSD Governing Board, my name is Ariel Herrera, and I am a 2020 graduate and a Catalina Learning Experience alumni. I would first like to express my gratitude for the December drive-up graduation and how impressed my family and I were regarding how well the event was organized. While officially graduated in May 2020, I did not get the opportunity to participate in the May drive-through event, so I'm very thankful that I was able to be included in the winter drive-up graduation. This was a very special event that allowed us to be welcomed by driving through the football field. While pomp and circumstances played, acknowledged graduates by announcing our names and allowed us to walk across the stage in our caps and gowns to receive our diplomas. Unfortunately, not all 2020 graduates had the special opportunity to walk across the stage to receive their diplomas. I have heard multiple individuals express disappointment about summer 2020 graduates not receiving the same acknowledgement. I also recall how TUSD had original plans to host in-person graduation ceremonies for June of 2020 with CDC guidelines, but was permanently canceled with no mention of further postponement. I remembered at the time feeling heartbroken about the thought of possibly never being able to experience walking at my high school graduation, especially since I have dealt with multiple health challenges throughout my high school journey. While I am personally content and grateful for receiving the drive-up graduation, I can sympathize with students who have yet to have that fulfillment of acknowledgement and proper closure of their high school career. We understand the unprecedented times that we are living in and do not need a specific date as of now. However, we would greatly appreciate a public commitment from TUSD to consider those who still wish to walk across the stage at their high school graduation. On behalf of the TUSD class of 2020, we humbly ask that TUSD Governing Board and Superintendent Dr. Gabriel Trujillo to include the class of 2020 in the next graduation ceremonies. It is unmerited for the class of 2020 to be denied the similar acknowledgement that every other graduating class has received. This is equity for an already marginalized group of TUSD students. Sincerely, Ariel Herrera.
All right, and I believe that was our last speaker. Dr. Trujillo, did you want to start with any responses?
Yeah, just a couple of responses. We're having an informational presentation 1 week from tonight on the status of the registration of the district for COVID-19 vaccines, but I do want to respond publicly that right now, the Pima County Health Department is not accepting registration from any school district for Group 1B. Pima County Health is only accepting registrations for Group 1A, and we have successfully registered the employees in the district that are included in Group 1A. They are as follows: our nurses assistants, our athletic trainers, our speech and language pathologists, our occupational therapists, and our physical therapists. Those are the only employees in TUSD that are categorized as Group 1A and have been successfully registered for the vaccine. Again, we are not permitted at this time to register Group 1B. We are awaiting the green light from the Pima County Health Department. They have indicated that they will direct the districts to begin the registration process when they are ready. So I just wanted to make sure that, I know that's a hot button item. We'll have a more formal presentation with more details next week. Our super site for COVID-19 testing will be operational on Saturday at High Corbett Field. We will be pushing out the schedule and the process for registering for weekly testing at High Corbett Field. We'll be putting that out in the next couple of days, and that will be part of the informational presentation a week from tonight that will be available for all of our families and our employees on a weekly basis, free of charge.
Thank you. Board members, any questions or comments for administration? I have one. Dr. Trujillo, we had discussed a couple months ago about the purchasing of N95 masks. To respond to Jean Matsuyama's question, have those been procured?
There is currently a shortage of N95 masks. They are significantly more expensive than what we provide. And we unfortunately only have enough masks to cover the health services team that really does need them, because health services, those are our nurses and nurses assistants. Those are the ones that are up close with symptomatic individuals. So there is a run on those masks, and there's a lot of asks. There's a lot of things that we wish we can do. We wish we could do a little bit more with our air filtration systems, but the combination of being very pricey for these modifications, and in the case of N95s, significantly more expensive, has made it very inhibitive. And there's a very serious run right now on the N95 masks that we just haven't been able to get the quantity that we've needed.
Yeah, that is true. And thank you for trying. I know that, there is a run on that right now. I have another question about, you already answered that, the timeline for vaccines. So any other board members have questions?
I have a question, sorry, to follow up on what you were saying, Dr. Trujillo. Is there any way that we can give a stipend out to faculty members to purchase their own PPE?
Where we can bring that forward, that's going to, of course, require governing board approval. Given the budget deficit that we're in right now, that's certainly something that we can bring forward for consideration as part of our upcoming budget study sessions. Absolutely.
Okay.
Ms. Counts?
Yes, Ms. Grijalva.
With that item, considering the budget shortfall, please make sure to indicate what cost center PPE might come from, just so we can make, as a board, an informed decision about, because we're going to have to be picking between 2 or 3 things. I think in all fairness, we should have the option to be able to know where it's coming from. Thanks.
Ms. Counts, I have a question.
Ms. Luna Rose.
Dr. Trujillo, I've gone through some of the stuff you've sent us, so excuse me for not remembering everything. Where are we in terms of CARES Act money or something that's similar?
We have a budget study session next week that will go deep into that. Our CARES Act money has been all but exhausted at this point. We originally, of course, were allotted $18.5 million. We're down to our final $8 million, and a lot of that has been encumbered already in just replenishing our PPE throughout the district and trying to cover COVID-19 expenditures. So the good news is Congress just recently passed a second round of CARES Act legislation that includes more money for schools. So it's too early right now. We have no indication on how much Arizona schools are going to receive, or districts, but with the first round of CARES Act money, ADE was pretty quick in getting back to us and telling us what that meant for the district. So we anticipate that probably in the next month, we'll know exactly what our allocation will be for a new round of CARES Act money for the district.
Thank you.
Dr. Trujillo, I do have one more question. Do we have any plans for Ariel Herrera's comment about graduation ceremonies for this upcoming year?
No, right now, we're just looking to survive the virus, and best case scenario, I think, actually, the best case scenario was pretty eloquently communicated by one of the calls to the audience, that a fourth quarter return to normalcy. Everybody gets their vaccine. Everybody gets 6 to 8 weeks inoculation time. We open up the final 9 weeks back to normal, which opens the door for in-person graduation, absolutely, in May. And we certainly would call back 2020, absolutely. Call them back and invite them to be a part of the in-person ceremonies. I fully support that request.
Yes, let's all keep our prayers lifted for that. All right. Hearing no further questions, we are moving on to action item 4.1, approval of 2021 regular and special business meeting schedules of the Tucson Unified School District Governing Board.
Yes, President Counts, members of the governing board, I really want to thank Yolanda and Michelle, our board office team. They worked really, really hard with the superintendent's office to really pick out the dates that we think would be most amenable to the governing board and the community. Obviously observing all of the religious holidays and the holidays that occur during the school year. We feel we put together a good package of dates for the upcoming year. I'll ask governing board members, now is the time, if you have any specific recommendations for modifying meeting start dates, end times, start times, executive session start times, days in which we hold meetings. This is the time to bring it forward for group discussion. That way we're not handling the request one meeting at a time. I think it's healthier we just have it in mass here so we can get the board office and myself can get the feedback from all 5 of you in this venue.
Okay, with that being said, I would like to propose that we start our executive sessions, keep it on our board meetings on Tuesday, and move our executive sessions to 3 p.m. versus 4 p.m. and our regular meetings starting at 4 p.m. And I'm putting that out there for
Ms. Counts?
Yes.
The only concern that I have with starting our board meetings at 4 o'clock is that any of our working parents wouldn't be able, you know, if they have a traditional work schedule, they wouldn't be available. And I understand that it's filmed. And then when would we have an end time, or we're just suggesting to start much earlier?
Oh, good point. I am suggesting an end time of 8 p.m. and then we can vote if we choose to extend it past 8 p.m. And I definitely hear your concern about traditional work schedules and families. There is multiple ways of reaching out to the board, and I do think that it would benefit our community and the district if we really had tight meetings and we're done and not making really important decisions late into the night. So that was my reasoning behind that.
Can I follow up?
Uh-huh.
I don't have a problem right now with the start time at 3 o'clock for exec, and then our board meetings starting at 4. I do think that I would request a modification if and when students start going back to school, because that would be like my prime pickup time. So 3 o'clock starting wouldn't work. So that's my only concern. I'm curious to hear from other board members though. Thank you.
Thank you. Other board members?
Yes, Ms. Counts. I appreciate you bringing that up to the board for consideration. And my concern is that Ms. Adelita Grijalva mentioned about work schedules. Right now, that actually, with the way it's set right now, works better for my schedule. Even if we went a half hour to 3:30 or started the executive meeting at 4, that would help in terms, and especially when we go back, because then I also will have to figure out pickup time and that sort of thing. So that's my consideration.
All right. Any other comments from board members? I think that it's worth trying out and then reviewing when we go back into a regular school schedule. Because I probably will have that problem too, being a 3 o'clock pickup time. So,
I had a comment.
Yeah.
Ms. Jones. No, I think I think one of the points is to have the meeting end at a certain time, and I think there's a lot of strategizing and work that we can do to run more efficient meetings, to make sure that the agenda is appropriate, that the consent agenda is appropriate, and so we're not pulling items off of that when it's already been reviewed, and our discussions are focused on so that we can finish in time. So. That meetings aren't going so late that we're not trying to make decisions when everyone's battling fatigue at 9 and 10 o'clock at night after a full day of work. So I think there's, in terms of the intent of finishing meetings at 8 o'clock, hopefully that can get accomplished without changing the start time. If we put some time and energy in your role as president of the board, in the year ahead, to really make sure that we get there in a more effective way.
Excellent points. I think that there's multiple strategies for having efficient and effective meetings, and hoping with board support we can do all the things that you talked about. And I think starting off, now that we're still in remote, with trying this one of the multitude of strategies would be very helpful.
Ms. Counts?
Yes, Ms. Grihal.
Sounds like 4 o'clock would be better to start executive session, and then a board meeting starting at 5. Are the other board members more agreeable to that time versus 3 o'clock start? The end time being the same, but I'm trying to, we have to all balance out like work schedules and other things.
If it doesn't work to start at 3, then I would like to look at possibly some other days, because I think that just my time on the board, I think it's incredibly aspirational that we have a meeting that starts at 5 o'clock and ends at 8, which I, for reasons that I've shared with my fellow board members, need to stop at 8. So if it is a problem, then I would like to look at some other days.
Ms. Counts, just to follow up, I think that we as a district default to having a lot of discussion in executive session that we can have in public. And so I would ask legal counsel to look at that. Just in being a part of another organization, executive session is used very rarely in Pima County. And, we default, our executive sessions are an average of an hour or two regularly. And so to look at how much of that we have to have in exec, I think would be something that we can look at as well. And especially if we have board member commitments to not pull items off of the consent agenda because we've had an opportunity to either request that it be its own individual item or get the clarification we need before the meeting. All of those I think would be very helpful, and things that do, the meeting runs a little later because some of those issues come up.
Yeah.
Even I'm curious because Ms. Luna Rose is indicated that for like a 3 o'clock start would be difficult. Is what would work for you? Because what is going to be difficult, I think, if we're adding another day to ensure that all of us are present for that one.
For me, honestly, any day of the work week is going to be a little difficult at the 3 o'clock hour. Some of my meetings go from 2 to 4, 2 to 3:30, just the way that the nature of what I do. So, and school gets out at 3:45 for my daughter, so I'd like to try to see where that will land. So a 4 o'clock start time is preferable for me. If we want to try one time and see how it works, or 2, and then if it doesn't work, we go to something else, I'm okay with. But I also agree with Dr. Gravash-Shaw that we've got, we can try to be as efficient as possible, is also a goal of mine for the board.
Right. Yeah, I think that I'm totally flexible, and let's try it out. And then I think that we should actually have it as an agenda item when we go back into session, and trying all these other strategies. We can even look at it earlier. If we're finding that we're being super efficient in our meetings and we can, are all comfortable in doing that, then I would definitely want to look at a 4 o'clock start time. But I think for right now, I think just my experience on the board, it's going to be a big hurdle to try to make these meetings a lot more efficient than they have been, and still thorough, and all the transparency for the public. So I think that this, again, is just one of the strategies for that efficiency and transparency. And I do want to look at it after, a couple sessions.
Ms. Counsel, so I think, over a course of a couple meetings, we'll get used to working together and our styles, and, figure out how we can work together to communicate during the meetings, and have some more efficiencies, and bring our meetings down in terms of time. And until that happens, I think that'll take some time for us to learn how to work together effectively. Until that happens, there might be, some longer meetings and things. And, especially since we're remote in our meetings and doing the meetings virtually, can we maybe have a compromise of 3:30? Because if we were in person for meetings, and we have to drive and commute to Duffy to get to a 4 o'clock meeting, and then, if we can compromise at a 3:30 start time until we have in-person meetings again, so that we can log in remotely from work or from home or from wherever we are, and not have to commute anywhere, and use that commute time to meet a little earlier, might be a compromise we can agree to.
Yes, good idea. Did you want to make that as a motion?
You already made a motion to start at 3 o'clock. Do I do?
I didn't actually make a motion.
Oh.
We kind of started the discussion ahead of the motion, but.
Okay, then I'll move that we start the meetings at 3:30, as long as we remain virtual for our meetings, and we can readdress the start time if we move our meetings to in person. Okay, and Mr. Ross, do we need to attach that motion to another motion to approve the schedule as presented?
Well, if you're only talking about a motion for start times, that's not approving the schedule. So you can either include that or have a separate motion with the start time, which was just made, and then vote on the schedule separately. But you do have to vote on both. You do have to approve both.
Separately.
Not necessarily separately. They could be together, but you do need to approve the calendar as well as the start time.
Okay.
Since my motion wasn't seconded, may I continue my motion in the same breath and say with the calendar, approval of the calendar as presented?
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay.
Ms. Counts?
Yes.
I am curious to hear from Dr. Trujillo, administration, if he foresees any issue as far as scheduling.
The administration stands by the 3:30 recommendation. We'll support that. We are going to do our part on the agenda. I think we've already shown a lot of improvement on the agenda in terms of utilizing consent. I think you'll notice when we transition to the Foster presidency, the consent agenda item got larger. We started using that more as a tool than in previous presidencies. So I think that we're going to do our part, and one of the goals that we'll set is when we have larger, more high-profile items, like some of the budget reduction discussions coming up, or when we start talking about eventually at some point coming back for in-person learning, that will mean a smaller agenda because it's a larger item. So I certainly will be working with Ms. Counts to put together an agenda that's reflective of the items that are on there. So we're going to do our part as well to really lean up the agendas. I will advocate for exec. I think that's a valuable tool for at least for the administration. We use it because we've got, of course, a large pending case with our desegregation case, which really is a weekly briefing. So we're always going to need that. The district does business with 5 employee associations that have been recognized as bargaining units. So when we get into negotiation season, we're going to need exec. And unfortunately, when we do get back to school, one of the toughest parts of all of our jobs are those student hearings. And we know that once we get back into school, unfortunately, we'll have some more hearings. But I think exec can be certainly adjusted. If we have a lean night, certainly we can shave it down and spend only 30 minutes in there. And if we see opportunities on a meeting by meeting basis to try to move things up, I think we can do that. Absolutely.
Thank you. All right, any further comments? Right, Michelle, could you please do a roll call vote?
Yes, before I do that, I just want to read the motion of what I've revised.
Thank you.
I have motion to approve the 2021 regular and special business meeting schedules of the Tucson Unified School District Governing Board with start time for executive session at 3:30 p.m. while on virtual meetings, and open to start at 4:30 p.m. with an end time at 8 p.m. At 8 p.m.
Sounds good to me.
Is that good?
Very
Okay.
good.
Ms. Grijalva,
Yes.
Dr. Grubosha,
Yes.
Ms. Luna Rose,
Yes.
Ms. Shaw,
Yes.
Ms. Counts.
Yes, thank you. Okay, item 4.2, authorization of superintendent. Oh, and just to remind my fellow board members to please vote online. Okay, authorization of superintendent, or in the superintendent's absence, the designee to represent the Tucson Unified School District for the purpose of executing documents pertaining to applications for federal funds which have been approved by the board. Dr. Trujillo.
Yes, this is the yearly request of the governing board to grant me the authorization, or in my absence, the designee, which most likely will be Executive Director for Finance, Renee Weatherless, to sign off on any applications or necessary paperwork for the application or the receipt of federal funds. For example, in the all paperwork related to enrollment stability grant monies, or for a new round of CARES Act money headed for the schools, or Title I. That's what this item would do, and it is a yearly item that we do bring before the governing board.
Okay, board members, do I have a motion?
I'll move the item.
I'll second. Can we do this on unanimous consent?
Yes, you can.
Okay. So all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Right. Motion passes unanimously. Item 4.3, authorization for governing board members for travel expenses. Dr. Trujillo.
Every year, board president counts members of the governing board. The administration identifies designated individuals in the district, employees, and of course, governing board members as servants of the district for the receipt of per diem expenses and reimbursements for travel outside of Pima County. So tonight we recommend that all 5 governing board members, the superintendent, the general counsel, our chief operations officer, our executive director for finance, executive director for human resources, our chief technology officer, that they receive reimbursements for travel in state outside of Pima County for expenditures incurred attending, obviously, of course, job related, district related workshops and business activities.
All right, governing board members, do I have a motion?
So moved.
I'll second.
Before we vote on that, Ms. Counts, if I could ask a question?
Yeah, Ms. Shaw.
Thank you. Do we get weekly reports about the costs associated with traveling of different staff, or can we?
Every single regular governing board meeting, in the consent agenda item, there appear your vouchers. And the payroll vouchers indicate what's been paid to every single employee in the district and for what. And that's your opportunity to see what has been paid out to employees. We also, every single month, we put together a personnel action list, which will show you each and every single employee that's been given any kind of increase, whether it's hourly or a stipend, and the reason. And that is your human resources consent agenda item. It appears every single first governing board meeting of the month. If a teacher, for example, receives $25 for attending 1 hour of professional development, we have to report it on that consent agenda item for governing board approval and for public view. If a teacher works ticket taking at a football game and it's $10, we have to report that $10. If a teacher gets a reimbursement for going to a workshop, we have to report that. That's the same for all of these individuals that are receiving any kind of a reimbursement. So they show up in the salary vouchers, and then they also show up in our monthly HR consent agenda item. It's usually several hundred pages long.
Thank you.
Any further questions, governing board members? Ms. Grijalva?
Yeah, and just to clarify, Dr. Trujillo, like, for example, when we're going to be traveling for a conference or those kind of things, those things do come up for a vote regardless. Like if one of us wanted to attend the National School Board Association, or if we're going to go up to Phoenix to participate in an SBA or ASBA, all of those things come up. So it's not, this isn't approval to allow the process of reimbursement to happen once the expense is incurred, but we get to vote whether that's something that we want to move forward with. I just wanted to reassure the new board members, because I remember the first time that I was on the board and they're like, what does that mean? You're just writing checks everywhere? And no, we get to approve it anyway. It's just, and I would encourage you, Dr. Trujillo, to make sure, especially with the first full board meeting, that when you go and meet with the individual board member, the new board members, that you show them where all that is, just because, you know, it's a little daunting, especially when you say things like, there's 35 pages of something. Like, wait, why is there so much? So I think it's important.
Mm-hmm.
I have a question. Is this authorization for this calendar year, for the next 2 years we're serving? How long is this authorization for?
This is for the calendar year, so we have to bring this forward every January.
Okay, any further questions? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
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 Item passes unanimously. Okay, that leads us to, and please vote online. That leads us to item 4.4, authorization for Tucson Unified Council to appoint hearing officers for all statements of charges. Mr. Ross, is this your item?
Yes, it is. It's another annual event in January. Fortunately, we don't have to do this very often, but state law allows for certified teachers who are being considered for termination to have a hearing if they request one. And the options for the board are for the board to hold the hearing, or for a hearing officer to be appointed and take evidence and then bring the recommendation to the board for approval or not approval of the hearing officer's recommendation. The board historically has preferred to have a hearing officer prepare a record for the board to review, rather than having the board sit through a hearing, which could take days. So this would authorize me, in the event that there is a statement of charges, to appoint a hearing officer to prepare a record to bring to the board for its consideration.
Okay, any questions, governing board members?
I'll move the item.
Second.
All right, all those in favor? Say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passes unanimously. Okay, item 4.5, authorization for TUSD, General Counsel to schedule student disciplinary hearings for recommendations to expel and authorize use of hearing officers. Mr. Ross.
Thank you. Similarly, although this happens unfortunately a little more often, that there are student expulsion matters for the board to consider, and this would authorize me to schedule those disciplinary hearings and then have a hearing officer bring a recommendation to the board. In the interest of saving money, mostly, I hear many of the student expulsion matters as a hearing officer unless I have provided advice to the administration, in which case I would choose someone else to be a hearing officer. But this, rather than having the board appoint someone at each proposed expulsion, this would authorize me to go ahead and get that taken care of and then have a recommendation brought to the board. And as we mentioned earlier, that would be in an executive session by state law.
All right, do I have a motion?
So moved.
I have a question, Ms. Counts.
I'll second, and then
And we'll ask questions. Yeah. All right, Ms. Shaw.
Mr. Ross, these hearing officers, have they been working as hearing officers already, or would this be a newly appointed thing, or can you elaborate on that?
The hearing officer, when we need to have hearing officers other than myself, it's someone who is experienced as a hearing officer and has done the hearing officer training through the either through us or through the Arizona School Board Association.
And then in the past, what was done instead of hearing officers? Just the board would have to go through all of that instead of the hearing officer, or?
Well, that is an option, but I don't believe any board does that. Actually, does an evidentiary hearing for expulsions.
Okay, so we would still be reviewing it and having the final say in the matter?
That's true. Only the board can expel a student. So the hearing officer takes just like in an employee matter, the hearing officer takes the evidence, has a hearing, it takes the evidence and prepares a report, and the board will review that report. The student has an opportunity to come to the board in an executive session, and the board can ask questions. The student has an opportunity to make statements to the board, but by law, only the board can expel a student.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? All right, motion passes unanimously. Please vote online. And that takes us to item 4.6, authorization for governing board members and superintendent to attend the online National School Board Association Conference, April 8th through 10th, 2021.
Yes, board member counts, members of the governing board. It's actually a perfect example of what Mrs. Verhalva was referencing earlier on, where the board now has to take a formal vote to authorize the payment of registration fees for the 5 of you and myself to attend the NSBA National Conference. It is virtual this year, so there is no travel associated with the request.
Okay.
Dr. Trujillo?
Yes.
So I'm looking where it says 9 district team members, 10 district team members, and in the past we've had legal counsel and finance go. Do we have at least 9 members? Because that seems like a good deal. Might as well save some money. If just the 5 of us go, it actually, if I'm reading it right, it ends up costing us more money than if 9 people registered.
Yeah, we'll wrestle up 9.
Okay. In order for us to contribute, and I do think that we may want to seek to participate and do some breakout sessions, that kind of thing, because I know that not a lot of districts are dealing with a court order. I mean, we've gone through quite a bit in our district, and I would love for us to be able to share that on a national level. But considering that this is usually for board members to attend, it's in the thousands per person. This is I just want to encourage you all to participate, set aside the time, because it really is so worthwhile. And I would like to ask that we also participate in CUBE, because that, to me, it's for urban districts, and we end up working with other districts like Atlanta and Dallas, and I mean, really districts that have diversity like TUSD, versus when we do standard, you end up going a little bit more regional, which is fine in general, but the other districts in Arizona don't really look like Tucson Unified, and so it really is so much more worthwhile the times that I participated to go to the CUBE breakout sessions, because you're talking with the presenters there are talking about restorative justice and inequities that they've had to deal with in their district for a really long time too. And so the solutions that they have are very different than what some of the ideas of what we're doing in Tucson Unified came from those presentations in CUBE. So I would just like to encourage that. But I would like to move the item.
All right. Do I have a second?
I second.
Okay. Any further questions? Okay. All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed? All right. Item passes unanimously. You can vote online, and that pops up. I don't see it up yet.
Maybe she voted for us.
There we go. All right. Last item for the night, 5.1, future meeting dates and agenda items. Board members, do we have any agenda items that we would like on future meetings or dates? Ms. Grijalva.
Yeah, I would like to have a pandemic response presentation by administration with, in light of the rollout of the vaccine, the fact that the last 4 days is the highest, cumulative 4 days that we've had for exposure. Arizona's #1 in spread. For us to really talk about what we're going to be doing in addition to keep our employees safe, and when and if what will be the criteria for us to close our schools. And so just having a public discussion about that, it doesn't have to be incredibly long. I know the answers to some of them, but I do think that it's helpful, because I think we're getting criticized quite a bit for opening our schools, and I'd like the community to understand why that's something that we're doing.
Do you have a suggestion on a date when you'd like that by?
I don't want to put too much on Dr. Trujillo, just whenever, sometime maybe by mid-February would be great.
Okay. Great. Other board members? Okay.
Oh, Ms. Counts.
Yes, Ms. Shaw.
Sorry. I have a proposal. But first, I just want to thank Dr. Robbie for having his guests perform the blessing ceremony at Duffy, and all the intention behind that. I think that we can all agree that we still have a long way to go in America to really right the wrongs of the past in regards to the indigenous communities of this area and beyond, who have survived despite genocidal conditions and the forced removal from their homeland. We live on stolen land, and I personally hope that one day all colonized territories will be returned to their rightful owners. But until then, I think the least we can do is recognize and find ways to honor and serve the indigenous communities in this area, and especially the students within TUSD. Therefore, I'd like to propose that we start every board meeting off with land acknowledgements led by a student or a community member with indigenous heritage before the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you.
Okay. Would you like that as an agenda item for the next meeting?
Yes, please.
Okay. Great. Dr. Trujillo.
Yeah, I just wanted to preview for the community a week from tonight. We will have an informational agenda item on the status of the registration process. By that time, we should have a timeline for tentative vaccine distribution for Group 1B. We'll talk about the employees that are included in 1B. We'll talk about the employees included in 1A. We'll also give an update on our standalone testing site out at High Corbett Field and more detailed information on how to register. We will also have the first of a series of 5 budget study sessions next week, designed to give the board and the public an overview of the financial deficit facing the district in the 22 fiscal year, the factors that are contributing to that deficit, and some of the administration's initial recommendations for large-scale cost reductions. That will be an item that will be first up. So no rest for the newly arrived governing board meeting. Board members, we're going straight in to the very, very sensitive budget discussions starting next week.
Well, does somebody else have a comment?
I do.
Okay, go ahead.
And again, I want to also say to Robbie, thank you so much. I know you had reached out to Ms. Shaw and I to have our blessings as well. So thank you for taking that upon yourself. That was very kind of you, and it was a beautiful ceremony. I kind of have 2 requests, and it's not on nothing that's hard and set in stone on a time frame, but I would kind of like to see, and they kind of tie in together. One is how there's, I think, a lot of unfair focus sometimes on TUSD in terms of public perception and media. And I'd like to see, especially right now during the pandemic, I'm a parent whose child has struggled this past semester. And so I would, she did well, she ended up well, but I know there's a lot of parents who are concerned about their kids getting Fs, and I know that we have a high percentage. But I'd kind of like to see some numbers on how we compare to other districts our size, and not just in Arizona, but across the country. I think that would be fair, and not that it's just a TUSD problem, but that this is a nationwide problem. And second of all, I'd also like to see what kind of marketing plan or some sort of communications outreach plan we have for the vaccine rollout, and really break that down to the community, because there always is some people who just hear vaccine rollout and think it's for them, and maybe it's for a teacher, maybe it's for staff, maybe it's for parents. I think if we can get a clear delineation of what that communication plan looks like and maybe have some input, I'd be much appreciative about that.
So I will respond. Board member Luna Rose, everybody is very, very anxious and excited about the vaccine, but Pima County Health Department has taken tight control of the process. And they have not released even enough details for us to even begin to put together informational flyers or even a strategic plan on how we would, for example, we don't even know if they're going to partner with local CVS or Walgreens. We don't know dates and times. We don't know if they're going to offer weekend vaccines. So we, like everybody, we're kind of chomping at the bit to find out more about Group 1B so that we can do exactly as you said. Start to put together a promotional campaign in terms of the availability, the frequency, the opportunity that our employees are going to have. So we'll continue to work with Pima County Health Department to try to get them to release the details as quickly as we can come into them. I do have a meeting with their leadership tomorrow afternoon, so I'm hoping to get a little more detail. And as soon as I get details, I'm going to flow them out to the public. At this point, we've scheduled weekly press briefings at this time because we do know that this is an information-hungry period of the year with vaccines on the way. So I'll be sitting with the press pretty much from here on out every single Wednesday to be crafting our own narrative and putting our own information straight from me out so that we can start to combat some of that misinformation that unfortunately gets out there in the press. And it's an issue TUSD has dealt with. It's well documented that our sister districts have lost significantly more students than TUSD percentage-wise, namely over in Amphi that lost just about 13% of their overall student body. However, that wasn't the news. The news was TUSD lost 2,600, which is basically 4.6% of our student body. So that's there. So one of the things we'll be doing during this season is me taking tight control of direct communication with the press, working with our team to put together the narrative that we want each and every single week, so that we're owning our information that goes out. So that'll be part of the strategy. But I agree that as quickly as we get information about the vaccine distribution in TUSD, we'll be very quick in being public about our promotional campaign and plans.
Thank you.
Okay. With that, I will adjourn the meeting, almost at 7:30, and I'd like to just thank everybody. It's been a good first meeting as president, and very excited for this new board. I think great things are ahead. So,
congratulations again, everybody.
yeah.
Thank you.
Stay safe. Happy New Year.
Good night.